Let's go Pittsburgh Steelers with the win over the Cleveland Browns. I think it was 27-13. 27-14. Steelers 10-3. Browns fall to 3-10.
Mm-hmm.
Discuss.
All happened. All facts.
It all happened. Jameis is undefeated against the Steelers this year in snow.
And not so much out of snow.
But not out of snow.
Yeah. I mean, contrast to the two quarterbacks. I think Russell Wilson, played well, was efficient, didn't make a ton of glaring mistakes, but Jameis is Jameis. So you got some pretty big mistakes in there.
I mean, early on, outstanding touchdown to Jerry Jeudy, scramble drill, hits him for the 35-yarder. It's like, man, this is Montana to Rice again. Jameis to Jeudy. Jeudy was held to only 64 yards in this game, though.
Yeah, it looked like we were going to have another continuation of the Jerry Jeudy insane breakout production with Jameis, only it didn't sustain for the entire game. But yeah, I was impressed by Pittsburgh. They didn't have George Pickens in this game. They decided to sort of stand him down. He'd had a hamstring injury. Apparently, they were being overly cautious on because they desperately need him. But because of that, it meant you're going into the game without the receiver that you desperately need and lean on. So Pat Freiermuth had to make some plays. Van Jefferson gets a touchdown. Scotty Miller was told, basically a few minutes before inactives go in, oh, by the way, you're playing. Get going. So Scotty Miller, Mike Williams, makes a great one-handed catch on the sideline. This is not a good receiving core when you start to list it out like that without George Pickens, and yet those guys made enough plays. Russell Wilson made plays despite being under pressure quite a lot because the Browns' pass rush was getting to him, and did it efficiently, didn't make the errors, and that was basically he had a very game-managing type of performance in a game where that was really all you needed to do because your defense is really good, and the opposing quarterback is Jameis. So if you just game manage and Jameis, you probably win.
Yeah, I thought Russ, again, the stats the passer rating's nice, 101.1, but 15 of 26 for just 158, 6 yards per attempt. But those throws you mentioned, like the Scotty Miller throw down the sideline late, the Mike Williams one-handed catch, really good throw, great catch, the one-hander. On the back shoulder, but then Russ hitting Pat Freiermuth on that seam route touchdown, that was outstanding. Russ coming back to a second read and squeezing it in there into tight coverage, really good. So again, the stats weren't outstanding, but I think if you have Justin Fields at quarterback in this type of game, I don't think you're putting those points on the board.
Yeah.
And so I think there's still something to be said for the way Russell Wilson's running this offense and just not making mistakes. He's been incredible at taking care of the ball and making good decisions. So I think that's just another positive development for the Steelers offense, that even in their best, not even their best game, not even 300 yards of total offense, still able to score 27 and take advantage of those mistakes that the Browns made. Now the Steelers fumble late in a 2-score game, giving the Browns a little bit of life, and James comes back and throws a pick.
Yeah, and I think the kind of relatively low interception thing has always been a reasonable trait of Russell Wilson's. He's always been pretty good at taking care of the football, particularly when you factor in the style of quarterback he is in terms of, aggressive, deep down the field. Deep passing has effectively been his hallmark, right, throughout his entire career. That's generally not conducive to being particularly careful with the football. You put the ball in the air for a long time deep down the field, you are putting it at risk for a long period of time for defensive backs to make a play on it. And he's been pretty good for his career at taking care of the football. He is a really good fit for this offense. I think it was an unknown coming into the year, right? And we did say there's quite a broad range of outcomes for Russell Wilson within this offense. They're hitting quite a high end percentile-wise of what it is. I think he is proving to be a very good fit for this system.
Just to discuss the Jameis interceptions a little bit, it's 7-3 in the second quarter. First pick was by defensive tackle Keeanu Benton. A great play, a great play by Benton. I'm trying to rewatch it here because it's not like an egregious decision. It's just Jameis has to pump. It's kind of covered, and then Benton just reads it and makes an outstanding play. Probably should have buried it. And then the other one, again, it's a 2-score game. the Browns have a little bit of life, right? They're in Steelers territory, and we're at the point where if you score a touchdown, you can make a stop and maybe get the ball back. Everything's got to go right. And he just misses up the seam. And so that's the thing about Jameis and the interceptions. It's not egregious decisions. He's also inaccurate. Like I mean, it's not that he's inaccurate. He will fluctuate between a pinpoint, intermediate 15-yard throw and just misses, right? He just overthrows and underthrows. He just misses some throws. This is just a straight up miss up the seam for an interception that essentially sealed the deal for the Steelers.
This is why he is the most entertainment value that exists in quarterback play, because he's volatile from a decision-making point of view. He's also volatile from an accuracy point of view. So it is just a human wheel of fortune spin. Any given drop back, anything could happen with Jameis Winston at quarterback. It could be a perfect pinpoint, tight window throw, for a touchdown. It could be a wide open miss. It could be a catastrophic brain fart, turnover-worthy play type of thing. It could be anything. And you never know what. You never know what you're going to get.
We did get, as of now, first run PFF grades. We did get the annual 20-something passing grade from Dan Moore, pass blocking grade.
Yeah, though I think overall this season.
But it's been better. It's been better.
Dan Moore this season has been terrible against Myles Garrett, and I think it's been a career performance.
Yeah. The other thing, Alex Highsmith. First off, do you see the roughing the passer call that Alex Highsmith got? If you could find it, I mean, if you have it open, go check it out. Jameis kind of flopped a little bit. It was terrible.
You gonna do your rent?
We should be penalizing flopping.
Josh Allen had one where
So I agree. Like, Josh Allen's had some awful, terrible flops in his career. And that's where I tweeted out penalized flopping was after he did his thing yesterday. But he was doing it as a joke. I think he was doing it as a joke. I would leave it. I trust the officials.
His career highlight reel for flops is pretty extensive at this point, and they are.
It's just way worse because the dude's 230, 240, whatever he is, and trucks people, and he's just falling left. That's what makes it worse.
And they're incredibly theatrical. They're like overacting. So I would not.
This was Jameis. Like, he gets hit and has the.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Right, and he just goes does the flail move. After.
The worst one was Michael Hoyt yesterday. That was insane. I mean, that worked. He got the penalty.
Yeah.
The guy shoved him in the pile. He launched himself backwards, flailing on the floor. They were like, "Yep, flag." That was the worst flop of the day.
We should get to New York for all of those. Just end it. You cannot just hand out 15-yard penalties for flops. It's absurd.
These are
NFL football players.
In this world,
we should not be rewarding flops.
In this world of retrospective financial punishment, flops should be drawing fines. You can keep it.
It's an embarrassment to the game.
A lot of them, like the Michael Hoyt one is a perfect example, right? That maybe was a penalty. I would think that's a perfect example where I think you can come in after the fact in this world of we fine players for bad things that we didn't catch at the time. You can say the penalty's still fine, but we are taking money away from Michael Hoyt for flopping, for advertising it, for drawing attention to that foul. You flopping like that is not something we want in the game. We are taking $15,000 out of your pocket for that. I'd be okay with that.
Didn't you make the point a couple weeks ago? Like, we live in this world where the announcers are always like, well, they always catch the second guy. It's like, we have video evidence of all this. You don't have to just catch the second guy. You can either catch the first guy too, or you could just say, oh, it's okay, second guy, the retaliation's fine. You don't have to get the penalty. Like, we have video to look at now.
Yeah.
It's not, the second guy always gets caught. Just look at the whole thing.
I also think this is an area, again, where I think the NFL should learn from rugby, where
obviously
the second, rugby used to generally, now it's a little bit less now that we have cameras everywhere, and there used to be a sort of thing where if you got punched, it was effectively, you were kind of within your rights to punch back, The other guy started it. You're allowed to finish it. It's just the way it works, I'd be okay with that system. You get punched in the head, I think the natural, the accepted response to that should be to fire back. So you don't get penalized for that. You're just like, that was his fault. If he doesn't want to get punched in the head, he shouldn't punch me in the head.
Don't punch.
Just let it go. Either penalize them both or nobody at all. That's all I'm saying.
So the point I wanted to make before we got off the rails there, Alex Highsmith with
Yes.
a bunch of pressure in this game. So every single week it's Nick Herbig didn't actually have the pressure this week, but it was Alex Highsmith, and TJ Watt did have pressure but didn't have those perfectly timed sacks. But every single week, different players for the Steelers able to create pressure.
And
Cameron Heyward with a couple cleanup sacks in there as well.
Yeah, and that's obviously helped by Jermaine Ifedi being left tackle for the Cleveland Browns at this point, where the one-on-one matchups are. The Browns are in this sort of horrible catch-22 situation where theoretically the guy you want to be giving the double-team help to is the guy blocking T.J. Watt, but that's also the better tackle. And actually, you really want to be giving the help to Jermaine Ifedi, who's on the opposite side of the line, but that would therefore mean singling T.J. Watt up. So they're in this horrible catch-22 of do we help left or right? You can't do both, really, and you desperately want to do at least one of them, otherwise we're screwed. So that's rough.
Tough situation there.
At one stage, the Steelers, for a period, were running basically the Wisconsin defensive line. It was T.J. Watt, Nick Herbig, Keeanu Benton, and Isaiah Loudermilk, I think, or all Wisconsin Badgers. And they had all four of them at one point.
Get a pipeline from Wisconsin. So Steelers remain 2 games up, or they're officially 2 games up on the Baltimore Ravens, who are on bye in the AFC North. Anything else before we get to the fours?
Oh, yes, we do. We have the embarrassment that is Kadarius Toney, who was out there. The level of stupidity that he brings to an NFL football game is actually phenomenal to watch. He's a punt returner now. He's gone from like first-round wide receiver who carved up the Dallas Cowboys and looked like he could be the next great wide receiver superstar to gimmick player doing dumb things to cost an offense and take points off the board to punt returner now doing dumb things to cost the team possessions. So he's out there returning punts, the first one he fair catches, and then like throws the ball at a collection of Steelers defenders, flag, taunting. Okay, that feels like something you could have avoided. And then the second one, he just muffs the punt, they turn the ball over, and that's the end of the game, effectively. That's if you had any designs on a comeback, it effectively ended at that point. Really impressive work.
Can't remember if I said it on the pod. I did tweet it out last night and then deleted it because it was mean. But if we're being honest with ourselves, I'll say it out loud here. If we're being honest with ourselves, the difference in the Chiefs this year versus last year might only be the Kadarius Toney plays.
The stupidity of Kadarius Toney.
I mean, we're talking like a drop pick 6 against the Lions in week 1 last year. We're talking about the offsides play that got negated against the Bills on the lateral play. When the Chiefs lost games last year, a lot of them were, it wasn't just Toney, but there was Martin Valdez-Scantling. There was some plays, right? But how are the Chiefs pulling it all off this year? They're just not making those plays that seem to have marred Kadarius Toney. Now, all that said, he had a key punt return and game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl the year before as well.
Yeah.
That's all true.
I mean, look, a muff punt can happen. It's just a mistake. It's an action mistake that anybody can make, right? A ton of players have muffed the punt. It's a difficult skill sometimes. So, okay. The taunting penalty is just idiocy. Like, it's such an avoidable thing for a play. It's not like you made the play and then were like you lost control of yourself. You got a little bit carried away and excited. You just fair caught the ball and then threw it at a bunch of Steelers.
He's just not, to me, like when we talk about special teams, like if the goal of special teams is just don't have disastrous plays, like I just can't have him on my team.
Yeah. He is such.
It's not even worth whatever he might bring to the table in positive plays.
Thing. He's such a talented player, and yet the league is determining that you are more hassle than you are worth because of all the bad mistakes and stupid plays you're making. Like that, with as talented as he is, that's a very difficult thing to get the NFL to do, to overlook all that and say, no, it's not even worth taking the shot at. And he's right on that cusp now. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.